Hi, my name is Bittu Sahgal, and I have two very simple ambitions. One, I want to leave a better planet for my children, and two, I want to leave better children for my planet. That's why Sanctuary Nature Foundation runs a program called Kids for Tiger. We reach out to 1 million people across the whole country, some of them across the world, and we say to them, the tiger, which we want you to save, is just a metaphor for all of nature. You can't save the tiger if you don't save the forest. When you save the forest, you save every creature in the forest. And in the process of doing that, not only does that forest save the species that the United Nations and Earth Day and all the organizations in the world want to save, but you also pull down carbon. And that carbon comes down because of this leaf, photosynthesis. When that carbon comes down and it's held in our ecosystems, it stays there the way it was meant to. This is a lesson that we are trying to tell adults, so we're thinking, seriously thinking of running an adult literacy program. Each child, teach one. Each child, teach an adult. That there's a simple way nature has its own solutions, it has its own absolute miraculous ways, and what we should be looking to do on Earth Day, and every day is Earth Day, is to flow with the tide of nature. The fact is that consider yourself on a ship. You've got provisions, you've got a full larder when you leave port, but halfway through, suppose some of us begin to empty the larder. What is the rest of the guys going to do? What happens to the crew what happens to the people in the boiler room? That brings two factors together. One is the care of our natural resources, and the other is the fact that these resources must be equitably distributed. And that equity doesn't start with human beings, it starts with the gardeners of Eden. You see that sunbird that you're hearing there, and the tailor bird, and all those other sounds around where we live? They are the ones that made this world such that this bumped up monkey could actually sit down and have a life, breathe air, drink pure water, gaze at mountains, write poetry. All this came because our garden was tended by species that knew what they had to do. And the biosphere looks after everybody pretty equitably. Not a single creature on earth was born that didn't leave more food for its offspring than it had when it was born. We are the only exception. We consume too much, we waste too much, we care too much about family, and that family is not just your brothers and your sisters and your uncles and your aunts and your friends. They're the ants, they're the bees. There's all those magical things living under the ocean that you and I may never see, but they look after us. That said, we're under lockdown. This is Earth Day, and we have decisions to make. What kind of legacy do we want to leave our children? What do we want them to think about us? Do they want to remember us as people who could have done something but chose not to because they were too distracted, they wanted GDP up, they wanted to have a gorgy, eat too much, consume too much, destroy too much because tomorrow never comes? No. No. Everyone wants to leave a legacy by which they will be well remembered. That's why the statues, that's why the Taj Mahal, that's why everything. But there is nothing we can leave to them more valuable than air they can breathe, water they can drink, food that they eat without poison in it. And is this possible? Is this even possible? I promise you it's possible. It's not only possible, but it is going to happen with or without us in the picture. That is what COVID-19 is telling us. Look, I hear so many people say, we will kill the virus, we will destroy the virus, we will declare war on the virus. You're not going to declare war on the virus. You're not going to declare war on the virus. You're going to learn to live with it. everything in its place and a place for everything. If you had the Ebola virus, it came out because somebody ate monkeys, I presume. I'm not a virologist. But I will tell you this, that if we leave enough place for nature, from the elephant to the termite to the soil bacteria and the nematodes, nature will leave a place for us to survive. Actually, the story I'm telling you is not a story I tell adults. My constituency are below the 12s. Now, since I started so long ago, they've become 30 and 40. But the fact still remains. They are the ones who are going to be having the hands on their wheels of our engine, the one that is driving Homo sapiens towards a direction that we think is the best one. The next pandemic is waiting behind there. If we leave ecosystems alone, those ecosystems will be able to keep future pandemics in control. I said at the start, I'm not a virologist, but let me tell you what my worry is today for India, and then let me tell you what the solutions are. My worry for India is that the glaciers in the Himalaya have melted, that the salinity that is creeping into the Sundarbans is such that maybe 10, 12 million people will start migrating, internal migration northward. That because sea levels are rising, the coasts are beginning, the aquifers on the coasts are beginning to get more saline. Our resources in the meanwhile are diminishing because we are misusing them. For instance, let me tell you what the misuse is. The misuse is not that we want electricity, why should we have it and we go back to a cave? No, that's not it. The point is that suppose you wanted a toilet and you had the Taj Mahal. Everybody needs to take a leak sometime, but do you want to build it in the mausoleum itself? Where Mumtaz Mahal become, you get my picture. You cite it rightly and don't overbuild it. If you want to build new infrastructure, don't build it on the coast, because all the world's infrastructure is now moving up. They're spending billions of dollars. That is where tomorrow's GDP will come, preparing for a world where the sea levels are higher, preparing for a world where the climate is not as reliable as we used to. 7th of June, the monsoons will come. No, they won't come. They might come in the end of May, they might come in the end of June. We don't know. So we have to build resilience and we have to be future ready. How do we do that? It's as simple as this. This leaf, in the middle of summer, even if it was Rajasthan, it would be cool. Why? Because of transpiration. Every tree is an air conditioner. Treat the green around us as infrastructure, not as impediments to infrastructure. There's another lesson to be learned, and this is for civil engineers, that when the Titanic sank, in the stateroom there were people asking for pink champagne and people saying, I want Blue Danube and I don't want to have Swan Lake. And out on the top, way up on the top of the deck, you had the deckhands freezing to death. And then somebody said to them, look at those guys down there having a great time. And there are analogies here that you'll catch. So they said, well, let's burn just one lifeboat to stay warm. So they burnt one lifeboat to stay warm. Then it still got cold and somebody said, let's take the floats. Look, we're on the same Titanic. Whether you're in the boiler room or the stateroom, I'm not saying there's going to be absolute equity everywhere. There's always going to be some degree of inequity. But please, listen, the biosphere is not going to pass any judgments. It is only going to give us warnings and then consequences. The floods, the droughts that we see are warnings. The consequences, COVID-19, is just, कहते हैं ना, ये तो सिर्फ अंगड़ाई है. This is just a hint of what I can do. When the same problem hits us 360 degrees, when climate change moves into higher gear, and 400 parts per million of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere climbs to 450, at that point, we won't know where to turn, neither for escape nor for solutions. But today, we have the time, because unlike the Titanic, our biosphere fixes itself. Like the cut on your hand, it fixes itself. You destroy a river, the butterflies come and plant. You destroy the oceans, eventually the sea turtles will come and they will fix it. The whales will poop and everything comes up and the carbon will come down. Everything can be fixed if we just leave it alone. Just leave it alone. When you and I are sick and we have to go into a hospital for a visit, and the doctor says go into the ICU, he doesn't tell you, give me 10 push-ups, come on, jump, jump. He doesn't. He tells you, rest a while. Rest a while. Let's give the earth a little rest. Even now, just a month and a half, look at what's happening. It's across the world. The creatures are coming back out. The skies have become completely, absolutely, beautifully blue. All the promises that were made at COP21 in Paris, which were never fulfilled, the biosphere is beginning to tell you this is how you can fulfill them. Don't consume too much, don't waste too much, respect this leaf, respect the wetlands, respect the grasslands, respect the mountains, the coasts, the corals, the islands, the seashores as infrastructures for life, not as impediments for GDP, which goes up and then you go down. It doesn't work that way. We have solutions. You and I can fix them. I would, for instance, want to see more women in charge of this planet. I think us, and I'm not being, just saying something to you on television or on your screens. I do believe that men have taken their own power for granted. Look how strong I am. Look how tall I am. Look how big I am. I can make you kneel. That is not the way to deal with the planet. What you've got to deal with the planet is like this. Thank you. Thank you for giving us a life. We will look after you forever and ever and ever. And may our children be safe in your care. Thank you.